Logan checking in from the YouTube side. Thank you, sir, for getting us some views on YouTube. So did anybody have a worse day than Bears fans? Yeah, the Jets, the Giants, the Steelers, the Bengals.
Yes, I was literally beside. I was hungover downstairs in our game room watching the Steelers game because I don't have cable, and just had random people walking in, watching me in my Steelers garb, just like sink lower into a depression. So yeah, a lot of people have worse days than Bears fans. Jets fans, Aaron Rodgers himself.
Big loser, Sean's local cable provider for not inking him to a contract.
And speaking of getting the party started.
For the victory lap though. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I stress overcome, what for? Train in the trees, please walk my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands and stormy shore seasons in the year. Switch gears, we keeping haters in the rear. At the blood, sweat and tears and my goal so near. I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear. And today, we break through. 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 And today, we break through.
Welcome to another episode of the Gridiron Podcast. I'm Nick Shook. That is Sean Barie. This is episode 14, and you may be wondering where Katie is. She is not with us tonight. She is handling a personal matter related to her beloved dog, Carl, who
Best friend of the podcast.
Yeah, best friend of the podcast. Not to get off on a somber note, but Carl's in his final days or so. He's in stage 4 of cancer diagnosis. So our thoughts are with Katie, and we're sending you love, Katie. And I know everybody who watches and listens to the podcast and is a big fan of Kentucky Ducky is sending you love as well. We look forward to when you rejoin us. But Sean, week 1 of the NFL is in the books, and I don't think I have to, go overboard in describing how much excitement surrounded the start of the NFL season for most everybody except for you by halftime.
Well, if we want to get right into the nitty gritty of it, I was gonna wait for that later. But yeah, no, there was so much excitement built up around this because you had so many different storylines heading into this season. The biggest one, I think, probably being Aaron Rodgers heading to the Jets. We all saw how that turned out Monday night. I mean, first of all, was there any American watching that game Monday night whose like arm hair didn't stand up as soon as they saw Aaron Rodgers run out of the tunnel at a dark MetLife Stadium holding the American flag under a spotlight on 9/11? Like, was there anyone that didn't have absolute and immediate chills? Only for 10 minutes later, his season ended.
Yeah, I got to admit, when it comes to pregame presentation, I think a lot of times it's canned, it's manufactured. That was not.
No,
that was
in New York, New
moment.
Jersey, on September 11th. It is what kind of makes you fall in love with sports. And then unfortunately we see the other side of that coin just a couple of minutes later. Other than that, I mean, you're right. There was so much build up. We got to see a heck of a kickoff game last Thursday, Chiefs and Lions. Everyone wanted to know, are the Lions for real? I think they answered that question. They are in fact for real. I feel like, though, at the beginning of the season, you can always count on the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals to kind of lay a clunker. And what do you know? They kind of all did. Except for really the Chiefs. The Chiefs played a good game.
I hate to be the guy who counters your statement with facts, but last year, week 1, the Bills beat the Rams 31-10 in the kickoff game, which was highly anticipated and ended up being a clunker because the Rams didn't show up.
First week, I'm just saying they are usually good for an early season clunker.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Actually, the 49ers are a team. I'm not intentionally bringing this back your way, but the 49ers are a team that traditionally struggles to get out of the gate on the right foot, and they did not. I don't want to dive right into that. We'll get into that later. What are your takeaways? I mean, you just said, maybe they are for real from that Lions game against the Chiefs. I know we're about a week past it now, and the next Thursday night game is going to be coming up by the time that you hear this. If you're not watching us live on Twitch or YouTube, but you can find us at YouTube, the Gridiron Pod page and at the Nick Shook on Twitch. I still feel like we need to talk about this game though, because what I don't want to do is say, well, if they had Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, they probably would have won. But also in those final drives, if
they had Travis Kelce on the field, they probably would have won.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't want to be that guy, but I have to admit that. And then the way the Lions put it away by running it up the middle, that's where Chris Jones operates. How much stock do you put into that for the Lions?
I mean, they still played against the defending champs on banner night, albeit without two of their best players, sure. But at the same time, the Lions were hyped coming into this, and they looked pretty good. That being said, I still think they have some problems. Their biggest one, and I might get knocked for this, I think is still Jared Goff.
No,
this team
Sean.
will go this. Why can't I think that? This team will go as far. This team will go as far as he takes them.
Okay, that's fair. And that's.
I'm not saying he played poorly. I'm just saying I noticed some things. It's like, okay, you could have put that game away earlier, actually, if Jared Goff had made some better decisions.
Now you're treading into he played poorly. Here's what I thought from the game. I got a lot of not flack on Twitter, but a lot of instant reaction because I was just talking about how well the offensive line played for the Lions, which I think is a top 5 offensive line and definitely kind of dominated up front. That was a big reason why they won. But I kept getting replies that was all about, yeah, but Jared Goff was horrible. And I'm sitting back thinking, did we watch the same game? I thought, he didn't win them the game, but he certainly did not lose them the game or get them in a situation where they would have lost the game.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Field that were effective and on target and in key moments. He operated the offense as it was designed. He didn't do anything super incredible, but he was very solid. And, when you look at it in total, that's what you need to win sometimes if you've got a good enough team on the other side of the ball, which the Lions did in holding the Chiefs to 20 points. So I think he's going to be unfairly maligned. And I think this is common in the NFL. Reputation often precedes evaluation of a player's performance, especially on a week-by-week basis, and especially in prime time. It happens to Kirk Cousins every year, who, by the way, had a really rough week 1, turned the ball over 3 times in the first half of a game that the Vikings definitely could have won. And it happens to other guys. And Ryan Tannehill, who also had a terrible week 1, so those are justified. But Jared Goff, get off his back. Let him prove whether you're right or wrong, instead of being ready to jump to that conclusion. That's all.
I'm asking him to prove me right or wrong. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Right. Speaking of that Minnesota-Tampa Bay game, I mean, locally down here in Tampa Bay, man, people are riding really high on the Bucs right now.
Are they?
They are, because they didn't expect Baker Mayfield to lead them to a week 1 win. No one really... Yeah, every Bucs fan will say, I believed in Baker from the start. They're all lying. They are all absolutely lying. And in fact, the funniest thing was our chief meteorologist down here at Fox 13, Paul Delgado, in the first half of that game, tweeted, in the last year and a half, Baker Mayfield has been on 4 separate teams. It's almost like the first 3 knew something, because Baker was playing so terribly for the first 6 drives of the game. I hope he deleted that tweet in the second half, because Baker definitely improved. The offense definitely improved. Still definitely a lot of improvement to be made. But at the same time, when no one really expects anything from you and you come out in a raucous environment up there in Minneapolis and you get a win over a team that was supposed to just run circles around your defense with KJ Osborne and Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins and Jordan Addison, and you keep them in check and you force them to 3 turnovers, you're going to get some people then about facing and saying, oh, I believed in this team from the start. We'll see where it goes from here. But it was encouraging to see that they could do that.
Yeah, and Sean, I'm sure this has, if not dominated, has certainly permeated your vision of the news cycle in the sports world down there. Baker's teammate, Rachaad White, revealed that Baker figured out Minnesota's defensive calls by halftime, which is funny because at first you're like, really? And then if you go track the game back again, which I had just watched that game yesterday, so it was still fresh in my mind, I'm like, dude, he's right. Because I just thought about this sequence, that last drive right before halftime, there's a 3rd and 2 where Baker sits back and he fires a bullet right in between 2 defenders on the seam, a bit of like a skinny post run by Chris Godwin, gain of 14, first down. Next play, 9 yards to Mike Evans on the sideline. A few plays later, right over cover 2 to Mike Evans for a touchdown, as if he knew what the coverage was going to be and just had to wait for it to develop in front of him. So when Rachaad White said that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I ran back those plays again, and I was like, well, yeah. You could see where he knows that this is going to be open underneath because that's not an easy throw, but he knows if he throws it just the right time, he's going to squeeze in there for the first down. And then as Evans kind of runs a skinny post down the field a bit with a little bit of an outside fake, he didn't even need that really. All he had to do that for was to hold that safety to the outside so he could get over top on the inside. But Harrison Smith, they come out in a 3-shell look, and I'm getting deep in the weeds here, but they come out in a 3-safety look over the top, right? That would initially tell you, well, it's probably cover 3. That play is not going to be open because you're going to have a deep safety. Smith slides down. It's an inverted cover 2, wide open, as if Baker knew the defense. It was remarkable when you looked at the numbers, Sean. And I cannot believe I'm going on this much of a positive rant about Baker Mayfield. But after starting 3 of 11 for 12 yards, Baker Mayfield completed 18 of his final 23 passes for 161 yards and 2 scores, including a second passing touchdown to rookie Trey Palmer, who I think everybody should keep their eyes on. He had a really nice preseason. He's a stud out of Nebraska.
Head over to the waiver wire right now. Seriously.
And you're right. Exactly. Fantasy fans. And I'll tell you what, that play, another example of Baker just sitting back and waiting and knowing that this is eventually going to come open underneath. And the only
offensive
question
line
I had
also looked much improved from last year. And this is still an offensive line that had a lot of questions. My favorite part about today, though, you mentioned Rachaad White kind of spilling the beans on Baker Mayfield knew what was coming. Did you hear Baker's response to when he was asked that question? Yeah,
he said, well, it helped a lot. And then
he also said,
no. They said, do you think it was like cheating? And he goes, oh, well, I'm a fan of the Texas Rangers, not the Houston Astros. Baker's always good for a quip or two like that.
Here's the thing, though. No, it's not. If someone is
of course not
tipping their pitches and you figure it out, that's not cheating. That's just playing the game the right way. And he was smart enough to figure that out. I love the fact that everyone said, well, this team's going to suck now because Tom Brady isn't here. Well, no offense. This team sucked last year with Tom Brady. And I feel like that motivation that Tom's not here anymore. We have to fend for ourselves. I don't know. Maybe it leads to a couple more wins this season. I had them at like 6-11. Maybe I'm going to be wrong. Maybe they do win the South and they finish with 9 or 10 wins. Still probably don't think it's going to happen, but it would be a hell of a story.
It's funny because I watched them on the defensive side of the ball and I was like, damn, they still got a lot of playmakers. Like they still got Devin White. They still got Levante David. Vita Vea was big in that game again.
Except
Antoine Winfield's still back there.
Right into Levante David.
Yeah, but that happens.
It's an old man out there. Easy now, Vita.
Izien, the defensive back, the rookie, had his first career interception. He had a great game. I just thought, defensively, this is a Todd Bowles defense. It's just, can Todd Bowles get out of his own way as a head coach? That's the big question mark. And the other thing that really jumped out to me when I was watching this game before I read all this Baker stuff and dove back into it was, what the hell are they doing? What are the Vikings doing? They were getting after Baker and doing he looked almost exactly like he did in Carolina last year behind a bad offensive line, which is forced out of the pocket to the right, running, has nowhere to go with the football, picks up 2 yards and goes head first into a defender when he could just go out of bounds because that's who Baker is. And then they just called off the dogs. Before you know it, they're dropping 8 in coverage. Like, what, you're going to give this guy time to pick you apart? Let's not forget he's a pretty accurate passer when he's not under pressure. So I think, as much as it was a good win for the Buccaneers in a close game, the Vikings got to come away feeling like, how did we lose that game? After last year, they won so many close games and they were surprised that they went 11-0 in one possession games. It was like, they should have won that game. They gave the ball away 3 times in the first half. Kirk Cousins did not look great. He didn't look terrible, but he didn't protect the football. Jordan Addison, though, keep an eye on him in Minnesota. I like him as a nice compliment.
Oh, yeah, definitely like him.
For sure. Definitely. All right, let's continue to move through some of the standout games from last week because the Falcons beat the Panthers 24-10, and I don't really want to talk about it, but if you look at it at a 24-10 game, it was not that type of game. It's just that, we talk about the NFC South, and it's like, I don't have a winner of that division right now. The Saints did not look very good until the second half offensively. Derek Carr certainly needed 2.5 quarters to figure it out. Michael Thomas is back, looks healthy, got a little bit of rapport with him, but the star of that show, Rashid Shaheed, he caught the touchdown pass that put him ahead and caught the pass that allowed them to ice that game. I'm going to be very curious to see where the Saints go offensively week to week over the next month and a half, because I think that's going to go a long way toward determining the NFC South. Panthers and Falcons still seem too similar. Desmond Ridder does not excite me, but Bijan, Sean, did you see the juke from Bijan?
Bijan looks like an absolute beast, and he can absolutely be a feature back in the NFL. Everyone was so high on him, and I don't know why, but I don't know why I thought this, but I didn't kind of understand it. Yeah, he had all the physical attributes, but I didn't know. I'm so used to running backs getting drafting early and they turn out to be busts, but I don't think that's really the case anymore because, guys coming out of like high school into college, they are ready for such a pro style offense and they're ready for such a pro style regiment that it's almost impossible, I feel like, for running backs to be busts anymore.
Yeah, I think that we as a football nation are way too invested in the fantasy football approach to judging players, and especially rookies,
That
when
too,
they come to the
yeah.
NFL. I think that, and especially at running back and receiver, because like Jahmyr Gibbs for Detroit, a lot of people are picking him high off of just expectation with no proof. Like, you don't know how he's going to fit in this offense. He's not the only running back in that backfield. They went and got David Montgomery to make a complementary backfield that could pound it on the ground and attack you through the air. So they were all surprised. I think we talked about this a little bit, where it's like Jahmyr Gibbs didn't get a lot of run. Well, he had 7 carries to 42 yards, but he's not the lead back there right now, especially in a game where they're going to try and control possession on the ground. That's David Montgomery. He's your road. He's your grinded out running back who's capable of popping 1 or 2. So stop putting expectations on these guys. Now, Bijan on the flip side, I think kind of lived up to it, but too often we look at these guys and pin your fantasy football team's hopes, which, by the way, again, a reminder, folks, football season has begun. So I must say, Sean, the PSA that we say all the time, which is nobody gives a damn about your fantasy football team. Stop telling me about it. I don't want to hear about the gym.
Oh, thank God, because I had a terrible week in fantasy, Nick. Thank God no one cares.
Tyreek Hill dropped a bomb on my dad, and I won that one in a big way. But I'm not here to talk about my fantasy football team. We know you love to play it, but stop judging guys just based off fantasy performance. Sometimes it's about how they fit in the 11-man lineup, okay? Yeah. All right? Get off of their backs.
Tell you what, too, we have to talk about the Dolphins Chargers. Before we talk about that, Jordan Love, hey, 3 touchdowns, 245 yards.
Big day.
Looked a lot better than the last time we saw him in the 2019 Frisco Smoothie Bowl.
Who won that game, Sean?
The Kent State Golden Flashes.
Yes.
Who right now look just awful. But
awful. Kent State, no program in college football was pillaged harder than the Kent State Golden Flashes.
We covered against Arkansas.
What was the final?
28-6.
Oh, that's like a Saban call off the dogs against them in Alabama type of game.
Oh, speaking of, God, guess who I'm going to see this weekend?
Alabama.
Yeah, they're in town.
Who they? Oh, South Florida. Yeah. That's a weird game.
Well, USF plays at Ray J, so if they're going to go play a non-conference game against like a group of 5 team, they play in an NFL stadium. So,
yeah, not a great program at this point. They have not been a good program in a while, since like Charlie Strong was there.
Yeah,
but that's an Alabama team that could drop 100 on them if they figure out their quarterback situation. The frustration of losing to Texas last weekend. That was not a pretty night. It was pretty epic.
They are passing around shirts in their green and gold USF colors, and it says "We want Bama," and Bama is crossed out and says "We want," and then underneath, just to cover the spread. I was like, well, at least we know what we're going for. Good teams win, great teams cover.
Lean in, baby. I love it. What was the next game? What was the next game you were talking about? I lost. Oh, Jordan Love and the Packers.
Yeah, Jordan Love.
Yeah. Man.
But
talk about
so
that's how you start the post Aaron Rodgers era.
Is this a product though of Jordan Love having a coming out party, or are the Bears just still that bad?
A little bit.
Probably a little bit of both. Probably both.
You
come here for hot takes, folks. You're not getting them. We're very level-headed here.
Yeah, we are. We're professionals. That's what we do. We're not characters on screen paid to sit at a debate desk and fill 3 hours by making hot takes. He looked like a guy who had 3 years to marinate. And you know what a well-marinated steak tastes like, Sean.
He had 3 years to marinate?
Yeah.
Behind a slightly stoned hippie.
Packed with flavor
with weak
and wisdom.
Achilles.
Yeah. Oh, God, way to rub it in. I just thought he looked prepared. He missed some throws, but he looked very comfortable. The speed of the game was not too much for him. He has an established rapport with those young guys because he's also a young guy. They're all on the same page. And what I liked the most about it, Sean, was when when things went haywire, he still played well. Like there was a snap that he bobbled and it went on the ground. He like dribbled it off the ground essentially. It's all of a sudden an emergency. Like just get the ball out. He turns, throws a pass off his back foot, rainbow down the field to a wide open Luke Musgrave, fellow. He's one of the rookie class members for the Packers, who catches it and should have scored had he not tripped over his own feet after catching it. It was that type of day. Everything went right for them. He put a perfect fade on Romeo Doubs on the very next play for the touchdown that was really the dagger in that game. It was a just all around good performance from a guy that we didn't really expect that much from.
Can I say this just to wrap up the first day? Everything kind of was almost an experiment of extremes. Okay, we have
Yeah.
Jordan Love throwing for over 300 yards and 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's not going to do that every week. We have the Steelers getting dog walked by the 49ers. It's not going to happen every week. We have, Tua looking like the best quarterback in the entire country. It's not going to happen every week. I feel like we're almost given a false sense of security with all of these different games. And the storylines at some point are going to come back to the middle. The Bucs aren't world beaters. The Steelers and the Bengals and the Giants, aren't the worst teams in the NFL. Maybe the Giants, but you never know. But it was almost a week like that. Like whatever we expected to happen, the opposite kind of happened.
Yeah.
Or an extreme of that prediction. I feel like it'll all come back to the middle. That's what the NFL is anyway.
Week
Sunday, right?
1, baby. Week 1's all about overreaction. I mean, it is where we make very brash statements on teams' entire outlooks based off of one game, 4 quarters of football that, can go in one extreme or the other. Like you said, the Giants are not going to be 40 points down bad. Like that's not who they are. Everything snowballed as soon as that field goal was blocked because their first drive was pretty good in that game. The Steelers aren't going to be that bad on a week-to-week basis as long as Kenny Pickett figures it out. And the Dolphins, though, I think could be that explosive for most of the year. Are we ready to finally give Tua his flowers? Like he looked,
if he can stay healthy, yes.
I mean, with that offense,
how many people are going to look special though throwing to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle?
A good amount, as long as I can put it on him.
Good amount.
But I mean,
exactly.
There were a few throws that he just put it right in the perfect spot, and it was a shootout.
That touchdown pass too, especially.
Yeah, it was great.
All right, let's go to first. I mean, we got to talk about it. Aaron Rodgers. He lasts 4 plays. I mean, I was walking my dog when this happened, and it was actually my dad who texted me and said, Rodgers done. I was like, what do you mean he's done? He's out. Okay, Dad, context. Details, time, what happened, injury, type, part of the body. Did he walk off the field? I'm walking Lando here. Come on, man.
Did a sniper get him?
Yeah, and then when you see the replay, I mean, they zoom into his leg, and you can clearly see the Achilles just like almost snap and straighten. And it's wild. But I don't know. It is football. I mean, all the hype, and they turn it right back over to Zach Wilson.
I know. I heard somebody recall a story. Who was it that I heard today? It was Kyle Brandt on Good Morning Football. It might have been yesterday. He had to leave the game to get home because he does the show in the morning, and he left right after Rodgers got hurt. And because of torrential downpours, some fans were still late to get to the game. He said he walked past a family that was all wearing Rodgers 8 jerseys.
Oh, man.
Walking into the game having no idea that he was not playing. And a number of fans walked into that game and went, what is Wilson doing in the game? Like, that's the gut punch that the Jets fans
if you were not in your
Monday
seat
night
at kickoff, you missed Aaron Rodgers is possibly his entire tenure with the New York Jets. Now he's since gone on to Instagram and said that dawn is always, it's always.
No, the night is always darkest just before the dawn. It's the Dark Knight quote.
It's the Dark Knight quote. Yeah. So he's coming back. At least he's alluding to him coming back, but you never know. You never know with him. He's a 40-year-old man that now has to recover from an Achilles tear.
It's weird.
That's probably not easy.
No, it's not. It was strange because, of course, speculation runs rampant online as soon as he goes out of the game. And it was funny to see people like, oh, that's an ankle. Oh, he broke his ankle. Oh, that's a Lisfranc injury. Oh, that's a calf. Oh, that's an Achilles. It's like, dude, that's an Achilles. I didn't see the angle that clearly showed his Achilles tear, which is gross, by the way. Even if you're if you like watching Willis McGahee get his knee blown out because you're into gross stuff, even this would have grossed you out because when an Achilles snapped, you can see it like reverberate in slow-mo. It's nasty. And that's exactly what happened to Aaron Rodgers. But I didn't see that until like today. And I was like, oh, wow. The whole time I'm thinking that's Achilles. Like it's got to be the way that he sat back down, the way he was limping. And that's what happened. Now you go to Zach Wilson, who was not great in that game. Let's admit it. He did enough to get him in position to take the lead and then go to overtime. But he's got to be thanking his lucky stars that they returned the punt for a touchdown in overtime, because I felt like we were getting real close to the tie zone in overtime.
Got to thank his lucky stars that Josh Allen just forgot how to quarterback. That's
what he does.
His job is quarterback. His job isn't just quarterback. It's turning the ball over 3 times. 4 times.
And trying to be, and you want to talk about extreme, Sean? That's what week 1 was in a nutshell. You were right. In an experiment of extremes, in every game that I watched, it was either a quarterback who was playing within himself and operating the offense as it's intended to be operated, or trying to be a superhero. And more times than not, the quarterbacks who try to be superheroes lost their games. Kirk Cousins, not really entirely a superhero, but kind of trying to be a superhero. Sam Howell won his game, but tried to be a superhero at times. Josh Allen tried to be a superhero. Like, more often than not, guys who try to play outside themselves ended up paying for it. That's the volatility that you get in week 1. Zach Wilson did not do that, but he didn't do anything special. That touchdown catch by Garrett Wilson was all Garrett Wilson. And if
that
your
was
ceiling is
superhero-esque.
Oh, it's incredible. Great call by Joe Buck too. But if your ceiling is now so much lower, like, they have a championship level defense. They probably have the best defense in the league.
Jordan
right?
Whitehead. Hello. How you doing, Pittsburgh native?
Yeah, not Sauce Gardner, not DJ Reed. Jordan Whitehead's the guy with all the interceptions. If they play like that every week, they're going to be in every game. It's just, can Zach Wilson, like I said about Jared Goff, not lose them the game? I still think they can contend for the playoffs. I don't think they need to go out and get
I mean, they were last year to a certain extent, still with Mike White and Zach Wilson and Joe Flacco. Like, they were still contending for the playoffs, pretty late into the season. So I think they can. They have a better team around them now. They got some more pieces for Zach Wilson, so they're really going to have to build him up. They've already said, he is the guy. Lucky that he's been there for a couple of years, so, and now he gets a chance to prove all the doubters wrong. I'm not sure he will, but he's also got Aaron Rodgers in his ear now, which he didn't have before. He's got one of the best quarterbacks of all time in his ear, and unless Rodgers just totally checks out, which from his relationship with Garrett Wilson and with Robert Saleh, and just, he doesn't look like he's going to check out. It doesn't look like he's going to walk out on this team because he has too much invested in it right now.
Although I will wonder how he'll be on whatever. Well, I'm curious what kind of painkiller he takes, knowing what he likes to dabble in, whether he goes
being that like he doesn't like trust modern medicine. How do you fix an Achilles then? Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like it's going to get fixed in a traditional way, modern medicine way, but like, how are you stopping the pain? That's what I'm curious about.
Guys, don't worry. I'm going to have a shaman come and wave his hands. Aaron, you're getting surgery and you're going to like it, or else you don't get your $75 million guaranteed.
On this topic, we got some people participating in the chat. My guy, Tall Guy, actually lives kind of near me. Big time Madden content creator, joining the show for the first time. Thank you, sir, for hopping in and participating. He says, go get Matt Ryan and cook.
Oh,
you're crazy.
You know what?
You're crazy.
Hey, I was watching the CBS game. He looked fit. I don't know. He
looked fit last year. You know what he looked fit for? Retirement last year. Okay. They were terrible with him at quarterback. He played slowly. Their offensive line was bad. They didn't have the weapons. He was overmatched. You're not going to tell me that he's going to go to New York, where an offensive line also struggled to protect both Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson, leading to Aaron Rodgers getting hurt. And suddenly he's going to be the guy. No, not happening. This, unlike what you frequent in your content creation in Madden, this is not Madden. You don't just plug a guy in, but I do think they're going to go get somebody. It's just expecting somebody to go.
I'd give up Mitch Trubisky for a first rounder.
Yeah. Okay. In what dream world do you live in? Speaking of Mitch Trubisky, he's a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Sean, who had a tough day.
They had a very tough day. I put in the pod rundown, if you saw, biggest winners, biggest losers of the weekend.
Let's transition to that.
The Steelers are the biggest losers for me. I mean, you thank God the storylines after that beating the Steelers took turned to, wow, the Giants were terrible. Wow, Joe Burrow and his $275 million contract produced nothing. J.K. Dobbins goes down with an Achilles tear. Aaron Rodgers goes down with an Achilles tear. Like, thank God after that horrible game by the Steelers, people kind of forgot it a little bit because the storylines just continued to pile on for week one. That being said, I thought, man, I hate to say this, I had the Steelers winning this game. I did.
So did I.
Starting off at home,
team that's traditionally slow out of the gate.
Correct.
The Niners, not the Steelers.
Correct. Nick Bosa, how healthy is he going to be? Obviously he was going to be in good shape. He was going to play, but I think he played almost every snap in the first half until they finally took him out, like when the Steelers were in their 2-minute drill to end the first half. I didn't think it would take the Steelers an entire half to get a first down. I mean, it was at one point, the Niners had 199 yards of offense to the Steelers 1. Everything that could go wrong in Pittsburgh went wrong. Deontay Johnson's out for a couple of weeks with a hamstring injury. Cam Hayward's out for like half the season with a groin injury. Kenny Pickett was just god-awful. Patrick Peterson says, Brock Purdy has tells. We're going to pick him off a couple times. He got burnt for 2 touchdowns. They forgot to cover Brandon Ayuk 8 times, resulting in 2 touchdowns there.
Well, no, he was covered on the 1 touchdown. He just made a great catch.
True. He was just everything went wrong. And the only bright spot of the day was TJ Watt, who, I mean, actually kind of annoyed me because after that strip sack on Brock Purdy, he still celebrated. I'm like, bro, we are down 30-7. Calm yourself.
Yeah. It's week 1 though. That happens. You're still an emotional player. Patrick Peterson, you're right about getting toasted and having to put his foot in his mouth, right? But on inside routes that weren't in the end zone, he was actually kind of good. He had a couple.
No, he was. No, on the inside. Yeah, he broke. I think he had 2 pass breakups.
Yeah, 2 pass breakups.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. No, that was fine. And I mean, yeah, Brandon Ayuk got to him, but everything that went wrong or could go wrong went wrong. And
Sean, let me read the drive chart to you real quick for the Steelers in case you forgot.
I don't want you to. I don't want you to. Why are you doing this to me?
3 plays, punt, 3 plays, interception, 3 plays, punt, 3 plays, punt, 3 plays, punt, and then 12 plays, 76 yards for a touchdown. A beautiful pass, by the way, from Kenny Pickett to Pat Freiermuth. Can I tell you why you should think that you should have reason to hope real quick?
Well, because it's week 1 and there's 17 weeks.
No. This is empirical evidence.
Okay.
All right. Kenny Pickett on passes of less than 2.5 seconds to release was very good. Like
he was
much better.
He was holding onto the ball way too long. He was stutter stepping. He definitely, like you said, I don't know if he was trying to be the hero too much, but he was seeing ghosts out there. That Niners defense got to him. His line was giving him time to throw, but how much time, I mean, do you need against that defense, which is the best in the league?
I hate to say it, but your left tackle, Dan Moore, registered the worst grade among all tackles, according to Pro Football Focus, 75th out of 75.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so there's a lot of room for improvement, but they did start to figure it out, at least on that touchdown drive. Otherwise, not much to be happy about. I also think that because, I mean, the Niners went 7 plays, 54 yards and a touchdown, 6 plays, 30 yards, field goal, 9 plays, 73 yards, touchdown, 7 plays, 27 yards, field goal. They punted on their 5th possession, and then they went into halftime after the Steelers scored. When you're facing that kind of deficit, the running game is gone.
Exactly.
Like Najee Harris was a non-factor because they just couldn't run the ball because they were down by so many points. So you can't judge them off of this game.
It's so many Yinzers on Twitter were like, where's Najee? Where's Jalen? Get the ball run. No, Bert, run the dang ball. Why? We're down by 23 points. What is running the ball and commanding the clock going to do? We need to score.
No, you need to run through downtown and get the Permanis, get yourself a sandwich. What do they call it? Do they call it a hoagie
Sandwich.
Grinder? Sandwich. Yeah,
Sandwich.
There you go. So maybe we'll get Pittsburgh, Sean, to break down the next Steelers game. On the flip side, since you did mention it, the Cleveland Browns dominated the Cincinnati Bengals with a defense that I never expected to see play like that. 24-3 was the final. A lot of rain. Deshaun Watson, very average, C+ at best. But they didn't need him to be very good because their defense was so good. Grant Delpit was the best player on the defense in the day, led the team in tackles. A transformed player from the last 2 seasons under Jim Schwartz, who knows how to use him properly. Everybody knew what to do. Refreshing in Cleveland. After 2 years of watching them point fingers at each other and blow coverages routinely and blow a 13-point lead in the final 2 minutes of a game against the Jets last year in their home opener, they were the exact opposite this year. They were a great team. They were completely, I hate to use this phrase, but on point, because I hate the use of that phrase, but they really knew what to do when it came to assignment and executed it well. And that pass rush, Sean, all the money that they put into that front seven paid off.
I think the rule of thumb here, what we learned is just don't aggravate the Cleveland Browns. Juju Smith-Schuster, nameless gray faces. The Browns is the Browns. Jamar Chase, going to go play a bunch of elves. Just stop it. If you don't insult them, I guess you have nothing to worry about. But when you somehow for some reason insult the Cleveland Browns, it's like you've just woken the sleeping giant.
Yeah, which is weird because you should have the motivation to be good on a weekly basis and shouldn't need that. But
it's maybe it's that brownie elf magic. I don't know what it is, Nick.
Yeah, I think you're right. The other phrase that Jamar Chase used was "Cleveland is Cleveland," and that's what the Browns did after the game.
I like that better than Browns is the Browns.
Cleveland is
Cleveland. Yeah.
We'll share screen here, and I'll show you. Greg Newsom took that to heart with a Cleveland is Cleveland tweet after the game.
Yes, loved it.
You got to enjoy that. You like a little trash talk. I enjoy it. No, don't. There's too many t-shirts in this town. We don't need that. All right. Who else we got? That's one of my top winners. We'll see. Browns and Steelers, one of the big losers last week and one of the big winners, facing off on Monday night in Pittsburgh. It'll be a big game.
I mean,
big game.
You think it's got to be completely different, right? Like, can the Browns defense look as good? Can the Steelers offense look as bad? We'll see.
Let's see. Let's check my picks that I submitted last night. I had the Browns winning that game 24-20. I think that is going to be near what it's going to be.
Probably.
Not a lot of points.
I may cry myself to sleep that night if that's the case.
The Browns, by the way, Sean, I believe are debuting their white helmet in that game, which I know you're not an aesthetics guy, but I think that's going to look
not a big fan of that one.
Pretty cool.
Not a big fan.
We'll see how it looks under the bright lights of Acrisure Stadium, one of the worst named stadiums in the league.
Disaster at Acrisure. That kind of rolls off the tongue, though. Disaster at Acrisure.
We need to workshop that.
Yeah.
Big B has joined the chat. That is one of our diehard listeners, and he said, "Sean, Kentucky Ducky."
Kentucky Ducky all day, every day, Big B. Kentucky Ducky all day, every day.
My guy Madden also in here said Carson Wentz to the Jets inbound. Again, this is not Madden. I know that's your name, and that's what Tall Guy is involved in. That's where he creates his content in the world of Madden, but this is not Madden, guys. Let's not jump to conclusions here. We need some more winners and losers, Sean. Who else you got?
Obviously, we talked about the Dolphins and Tua. They got to be a winner. Jordan Love, he's got to be a winner as well. The losers, Joe Burrow. $275 million, and you get me 3 fantasy points? 3 fantasy points?
She had 14 for 31, 82 yards, a passer rating of 52.2, which is actually better than I thought it would be, and his worst completion percentage over expected in his career, according to Next Gen Stats.
You want to know something crazy? The leading passer in the AFC North is still Kenny Pickett with 180 yards.
Yep, that's what happens. This because Lamar Jackson didn't throw it that much other than Zay Flowers. That was a weird game, by the way. Yeah, that's a big loser. But I think Joe Burrow will be better. I think that the Browns live rent-free in his head and have figured out how to get after him. And
I think so, too.
None more apparent than on Sunday when their defensive front played better than they ever have against most opponents, and especially against the Bengals. They were harassing him. 11 combined total pressures between Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. Myles 6. Zadarius with 5. That is money well spent, assets well spent to acquire him. Big time for the Browns. All right. What about another winner, Sean? Who you got?
I don't know. You give me. How about the Rams? I mean, all the talk was about the. I mean, we haven't even mentioned the Cowboys yet. Of course, the Cowboys drumming the Giants 40-0. They're obviously a winner. But the Rams, we all wrote them off. Cooper Kupp is on the IR. The Seahawks were the darling pick to make the wild card again. And here comes Matt Stafford and a receiver whose name I can't pronounce. And they just absolutely took it to the Seahawks on the road. Yeah.
Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell each had 119 receiving yards.
There you go.
Accounting for the lion's share, pun unintended, of Matthew Stafford's passing total on the day. An excellent four-quarter performance for the Rams.
Maybe the Rams aren't as dead as we thought they were. Hey, they're a big winner this week. Here's your flowers.
Weird game. The Seahawks could do nothing, and they had 12 total yards in the second half. They were horrible.
Because Dave Canales isn't in Seattle anymore. He's here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's why Baker Mayfield was good. Yeah, definitely. Big winner for me, Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. That is how you make a statement in the first game of the post-Aaron Rodgers era. We've already broken that game down. I don't need to say all that much more. Big loser, the New York Giants. Detonated amid a torrential downpour at MetLife Stadium. Oh, my God. Talk about a game shifting on one play. Snowballing into an avalanche.
Biggest loser, all the Jets fans that bought Aaron Rodgers jerseys.
Put him in the mothballs till next year. See if he comes back. Last winner of the day for me, Sean. The last winner is Josh McDaniels and the Raiders. Eking out a 1-point win over the Broncos on the road. Josh McDaniels has been under a lot of fire since he got to the Raiders. He's doing the whole Patriot way. I don't care what you think. I'm going to build my team the way I want to build my team. Him and Dave Ziegler have been that way so far, and it's attracted a bit of hate. But Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Myers, they got that thing going, baby. 2 touchdowns between them. They did enough, and they got a win over Sean Payton, who decided to start his first game as Broncos coach the way he won the Super Bowl with the Saints with an onside kick. They did not recover it this time around. Russell Wilson, sneaky winner, played pretty well. A lot better than he did last year.
In a loss, yeah.
Yeah, a lot better than he did last year. Otherwise, losers, Ryan Tannehill. Oh, buddy. Woo.
It's going to be a rough year in Tennessee. It is going to be a rough year in Tennessee. The Jags have that division locked up. Speaking of winners, Jags. Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, baby.
Yeah.
Nice little game for him. That pick is not his fault. I thought he played pretty well. He's continuing on that path that he set for himself.
What? I will also take away one pick from Kenny Pickett. One pick was not on him. One pick. That one where Deontay Johnson fell.
Yeah. But he wasn't. He tried to be a superhero. Like we said before, he tried to be a superhero.
I can
All right.
be a hero, baby.
That does it for the NFL, Sean. I think we shift gears. But before we shift gears, Big B, big winner. Actually, biggest loser is Kadarius Toney, he says.
Oh, well, yeah, we didn't even mention him.
Yeah, I feel like that's been talked about enough.
8 targets, no catches, 3 drops, I think.
Logan checking in from the YouTube side. Thank you, sir, for getting us some views on YouTube. So did anybody have a worse day than Bears fans? Yeah, the Jets, the Giants, the Steelers, the Bengals.
Yes, I was literally beside. I was hungover downstairs in our game room watching the Steelers game because I don't have cable. And just had random people walking in, watching me in my Steelers garb, just like sink lower into a depression. So yeah, a lot of people have worse days than Bears fans. Jets fans, Aaron Rodgers himself.
Big loser, Sean's local cable provider for not inking him to a contract.
Yeah, it's too expensive.
Sales guys.
Got Sling.
All right, let's shift gears over to the Formula One side, where the Monza race is more than a week old at this point.
Wait. You're skipping everyone's favorite segment, Nick.
Oh, you're right. No, I almost let you off the hook, Sean. I almost let you off the hook. And you know why? Because
Katie's not here 1 week, and this all goes to hell.
Oh, folks. Sean likes to be tortured, apparently. I'm time.
Usually pretty good at this.
For America's favorite game show. It's the game show that's sweeping the nation, in which we put one of our co-hosts, usually one of the 3, now 2 tonight, under fire, in the crosshairs, under the gun, however you want to say it. And today, the willing participant is Sean Barrett. I don't know why he's willing, but he's willing. Big B, this is your favorite segment, and as he's correct here, he said
Nick didn't even know. Nick didn't even know.
I didn't. Sean, what is the name of this segment?
Do you even know?
All right, Sean, are you ready?
I'm ready, man. Ready as I'll ever be. Let's do it.
All right. So today's trivia is going to come from the world of the NFL, where you think that, hey, I know this pretty well, right? Well, yeah, maybe, but we're going to go win the Wayback Machine. We're going to quiz you on some NFL origins history because in celebration of week 1, that's where we're going. Sean, the first question, do you even know? The NFL began playing in 1920 under a different name. What was that name?
The American Football Conference American Football League?
No. The American Football League was a rival league that ended up merging with the NFL. The answer is the American Professional Football Association. If you didn't know that, I don't blame you one bit because that's a mouthful. I'll give you a bonus related to that. This does not count as question number 2, but when did the APFA adopt the name of the National Football League? What year?
Was it? Can I have a hint? Was it before the merger?
Yes,
okay.
Well before the merger.
I'm gonna guess 1933.
1922. So
come on! I know there were a bunch of teams that started in 1933, so I just figured maybe that was the time.
Price is Right rules say you lose. All right, Sean. Question number 2. We're flying through it today, baby. Do you even know, actually, the NFL was founded at an auto dealership in Canton in 1920, which is why the Pro Football Hall of Fame is located in Canton. Do you even know the name of the manufacturer of the automobiles sold at that dealership?
Jesus Christ, man.
I told you were going to hell,
baby. Wow. Is the automaker still around today?
No, it is not, and it is not a Plymouth.
Sir,
he was driving a Plymouth.
Can I? Pontiac.
No, that's actually not. That's an even better guess. You're never gonna get it. The answer is Pupmobile.
Oh, what?
HUP Mobile. Pupmobile.
I've never even heard of that car manufacturer before in my life.
I'm just glad you said Studebaker because that's a throwback right there. All right, he's over to you, folks. And I'm being extremely difficult. This one
These are hard this week, man.
Yep. You know the names of the teams that combined during World War II to field a squad in 1943 and 1944. Those are, of course, Sean.
The Steagles and Cardipit.
Yes, correct. But do you know with whom the Steelers nearly merged? Do you even know who they nearly merged with before deciding to join with the Chicago Cardinals in 1944? We might get it. He might get it.
Is it? I mean, is it the Browns?
No,
I don't know.
Because the Browns didn't exist until 1946.
Oh, I did not know that either.
But you're close.
Would it have been the Lions or the Bills?
No. Would you like one more guess?
Cowboys.
No, the Cowboys weren't founded until 1916. They were a member of the American Football League. The answer is the Cleveland Rams.
Oh, didn't know that.
And the reason that they did not join up with them is because the year prior, the Rams requested to fold to have
you should have given me half credit on that one because I said Cleveland. So
yeah. So we'll give you half a point. So Sean goes
half a point out of 3.
0.5 out of 3, and that rounds up another rousing and very quick edition of.
Do you even know?
All right. Now we're going to go over to F1, even though I messed up last time. Big B's guesses were great, by the way. He said Pontiac, and then he said ditto, Sean.
Yeah, I
don't know why that showed up.
Nick's learning.
That's about.
All right, F1. Where were we last week? 2 weeks ago. Monza. The temple
fun
of
race.
speed. The home of Ferrari. Yeah, it was a fun race. Ultimately, we got a pretty boring podium, though, with Max Verstappen winning, Sergio Perez in second, and then Ferrari digging on the podium there with Carlos Sainz. The headline there, Max wins his 10th race in a row, breaking a record he was tied with Sebastian Vettel for most consecutive race wins in a row. Red Bull continue their dominance. They've won every single race this year. So before we get to talking about this upcoming race in Singapore, Nick, we do have to start asking this question. Is Red Bull going to sweep? Earlier in the season, we asked it and we said, well, the law of averages say someone is going to win sometime. Yeah, that hasn't happened at any of the tracks where we thought it could be possible.
I don't think it's really possible in Singapore. I thought that Monza gave us perhaps our best test of Red Bull's machinery in a long time because Ferrari was remarkably quick and super competitive and aggressive. Elbows out, baby. I mean, for like the first 16 laps, Carlos Sainz was not letting Max through before Max finally got around him. It took him a long time to get around him. It took Sergio Perez quite a long time to get around the Ferraris and get into P2. And then the Ferraris almost took themselves out in that race. So I think we need to prepare for a sweep. I think that we need to appreciate the fact that Red Bull is this good. And a lot of it has to do with Max Verstappen's drive. I know they have the best car, but Max Verstappen's driving ability is what's really separating them. He is
not making any mistakes whatsoever. None. That car is not making any mistakes. How many DNFs do they have this year? Max doesn't have any.
Perez has a few.
But they still don't have many at all. So it's just that car is not making mistakes. The team is not making mistakes. The only driver that has made mistakes is Sergio Perez, and they've won every single race. I think now at this point in the season, it is more likely than not that Red Bull will sweep because they're not going to give it up in Singapore. They're not going to give it up in Suzuka in Japan. Not going to give it up in Coda. I mean, maybe Brazil, maybe.
Yeah.
And Brazil's going to be a tricky one.
McLaren
Mercedes won last year.
Yeah.
Ferrari's coming on strong, though. McLaren have kind of almost taken a step back a bit.
We are actually getting to the point where we don't have that many races left. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 races left.
What if it is? Excuse me if anyone heard that. I was trying to hit mute. What if it's Vegas?
We'll cut it out in post. Don't worry.
Yeah, fine. What if it's Vegas? What if the one race they lose is Vegas?
Oh, you just blown my mind, sir.
That'd be great.
Oh, that would be a lot of fun.
No, but at this point in the year, the way Red Bull is driving, just with the ferocity of Max Verstappen, I say they sweep. At this point, I say they sweep.
An update on the point standings, just to give you an idea of how far ahead Red Bull is after winning every race. 583 constructors points. The next closest team, Mercedes, at 273. They have doubled them up in constructors points. Max Verstappen owns a mental math, a 145 point lead over his teammate, Sergio Perez, who owns a 49 point lead over Fernando Alonso, who is somehow still in third, even though he hasn't done anything of note in a long time.
He stacked up those podiums at the beginning of the season. Yeah. Speaking of, what is his lead? What mental math right now? What is Fernando's lead over his teammate Lance Stroll?
Oh boy. Wow, you're really trying to poke the bear here. All right, well, we gotta scroll down a bit of a ways here. What is let's see, 51-23 is the lead right now he has over Lance Stroll, who's currently P9 in the driver's standings.
That is the biggest lead any teammate has over his teammate on the entire grid. Even Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. That to me is wild. Equal machinery, and you still have a car that is not winning races, but is still 120 plus points better than your teammate. That is wild.
Skill.
Lance needs to get out of the sport. He does not, in fact, have that dog in him. He needs to go play tennis.
An interesting battle in the driver's standings exists between the two Ferraris, which maybe explains why they were so aggressive in battling each other to the end. They were literally told in the last lap of the race, no risk, just get to the end. And they almost took each other out in that race and battled all the way to the finish. Carlos Sainz owns a 6-point lead over Charles Leclerc right now, P5 and P6. That's going to be fun to watch. And I think a bit of a surprise, maybe if you watch F1, you're not surprised, but if you are a casual follower of it, Lewis Hamilton owning a 55-point lead over George Russell. I thought it would be a little bit closer than that.
I thought it would be closer this year. Last year, George beat him in the overall standings, but now you're starting to see Lewis say, yeah, this is my team, and you're in my house.
Another fun teammate battle, Pierre Gasly with a 1-point lead over Esteban Ocon. That's fun.
I don't know if that's so much fun as it is, where did Alpine go? Because they were pretty decent last year, and now they're just squarely in the back of the midfield. And
you know what I was surprised by is a guy who's been driving really well, one of my favorites to watch on a weekly basis because he drives for Williams. Alexander Albon only has 21 points.
Yeah.
I feel like he's for Williams, way better than that.
But that's huge for Williams.
I mean, he was in the thick of it at Monza.
Yeah.
And that's not a great car.
And he held off Lando Norris in that McLaren for the entire race pretty much, which was so weird because normally McLaren is so good at Monza because their car is known for straight line speed, and the Williams had more straight line speed. Not only that, McLaren just couldn't get it together. I expect bigger things from them down the road. Afterwards, they were quick to say, yeah, we knew we weren't going to be good because there's slower corners here. Yeah, but you're always traditionally pretty good at Monza. But we'll see.
If we're wrapping up the season and the sweep to Red Bull, and we need something to look forward to, I think this is where we find it, is in these standings and in these battles. And I think as I look down the constructors list, I am curious to see if we get a separation of sorts or a photo finish between two teams. One team that I did not expect to be this high in the standings right now, but they've come on strong as of late, and that's Ferrari. They only own an 11-point lead over Mercedes. Could this come down to Lewis Hamilton finding a way with a car that he still does not agree with and setup changes that he doesn't agree with, which could send me an whole diatribe because it's 11-point difference. Yeah. Ferrari has a lead of 11 points. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Aston Martin, not Mercedes. I got that. I'm reading that.
I was going to say, no, Mercedes is in second place. I'm fairly certain Mercedes is in second place.
They have a comfortable lead. It's over Aston Martin, which makes more sense about it.
Ferrari has definitely been looking a lot better lately. I wonder if part of that is, okay, we're going home to Monza. We need to be good there. You know what I mean? Like they have to perform well at Monza. Doesn't always work out that way. And they drove like it. So, but their car is still performing well. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting regardless, because now we have so many cars that are close to each other. Whether it is, I'm not even going to say Aston Martin, whether it is Fernando Alonso versus McLaren versus Ferrari versus Mercedes. We have these cars that are close to one another now.
It's fun. I mean, there's still a reason to watch. You're not watching the leader anymore, and that's fine. But like in that race in Monza, there was good racing all the way to the end in the midfield. And if that's what you tune into F1 for, is to watch good racing, you're still getting it. And that's what's important. I'm very curious to see what happens next year. I know I don't like to look too far ahead at this point because we still do have 8 races left. But, McLaren has kind of puffed its chest out since they came on strong at Silverstone. Zach Brown said that the wind tunnel and everything is finally up to par and that there's nothing else in their way and that they should be a championship contender.
Yeah, but
with Lando and Oscar Piastri.
But Zach Brown is a chatty Cathy.
Yeah, he's a salesman. You know who else is chatty Cathy, by the way? Not to completely digress here, but Helmut Marko, shut the hell up. Stop talking. My God.
Look,
oh my
Helmut,
God.
if you're going to be racist, at least be geographically correct, because he was talking about, if you haven't heard, Helmut Marko was talking about how, well, Sergio Perez is South American, so, he naturally can't, focus the way that Max Verstappen can. It's like, could you be any more underlying racisty, old Austrian guy? Like, you're literally being like an evil villain from an Indiana Jones movie right now. You just need a monocle.
Yeah, see?
And he's also now recanted on that. But if you're Sergio Perez, you're going, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
Really?
Dude,
like, I'm in second place. The team is in first place. Yeah, I'm not having my best season with you guys, but like, what the hell? He's not South American because Mexico is in North America.
Yeah.
Central America, if we really want to get nitty-gritty to it.
Yeah, exactly. Helmut has spoken enough to make, if Sergio was just like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to drive for you guys anymore because you suck. I would totally understand that because he's like throwing him under the bus, not once, not twice, like 10 times. He's thrown him under the bus enough times for every wheel on the bus to hit him 3 times. Okay. That's
and
how
he
often
backed over it.
Trashed him. Yeah. Put it in reverse, peeled out, the whole 9. It's just been an ugly situation for a team that's dominating. Applaud them. Give them appreciation. He's not the best teammate when it comes to strength, but you guys are dominating. And it's not just because of Max. A lot of it's because of Max. He would still be leading the field by himself. But let's not overlook the fact that Sergio's still been a pretty solid driver for the most part.
Let's not forget that the Mexican Minister of Defense is the only reason Max Verstappen has his first world title in the first place. That and a lot of shady stuff going on behind the scenes with Michael Massey. But that's neither here nor there.
No, Michael, no. It is so
no.
not fair. Sergio with the wide rear end blocking my cars. No.
All right. Singapore.
It's
going to be wet. It's going to be wild. It's going to be humid as all hell. I sent you a video today of Charles Leclerc. He is preparing for Singapore by not sleeping at normal hours. And that's kind of what they do. So he's going for like midnight drives through the French countryside from Monaco to the Paul Ricard circuit to drive for an hour at night. Yeah, I mean, that's how he's handling the jet lag. He's just not sleeping now so he can sleep later.
That's an interesting strategy.
I've heard a lot of drivers do it. Like they wake up at like they don't switch their schedule around. They just get their normal like 8 hours of sleep, but they go to bed at like, 8 o'clock and they'll wake up at 4 a.m.
I like that. I wish I could commit to something like that instead of staying up until 2 or 3 in the morning every night.
Yeah, same.
Doesn't pay off. We'll find out. It's one of the most physically grueling races on the calendar, so we can definitely anticipate that. But at least they're preparing. These guys are professionals, man. I know we see the old videos of Sergio Perez with the neck training and the wheel turning training and F1 training so hard. We've seen that a million times. Okay, on your social media accounts, but it's a lot more than that. And they might be small guys, but they are athletes. They are elite athletes, even if the way they do it is by driving machinery. Okay, let's not lose that. All right, should we just dive right into podium predictions here?
Yeah, go into podium predictions. Go ahead with yours first.
Okay, well, no surprise, Max Verstappen wins. But it's not. It's 11 straight. Yes, Max, super Max. But it's not going to be a 1-2 Red Bull because I think we're going to get some tomfoolery, some hijinks. And
some hijinks. All right.
Because it's a street circuit, I think we're going to get some unexpected results.
All right.
I'm gonna go with your boys. I'm gonna go with McLaren, Lando Norris, and
all right,
powered by their awesome third alternate livery of this year. If anybody likes custom paint jobs, it's McLaren.
Here's the thing about that. I think McLaren have like the worst looking car on the grid when it's their normal livery, but they're one-offs. There's surprise liveries, whether it was the 60th anniversary one at Monaco, the chrome one at Britain, or this black and orange one, the stealth mode. They're all fantastic. All of them. Fantastic. That should be their normal livery. I love it. It is awesome.
Yeah. And it would save them on paint. They could put more weight in other things and less in the car, they could,
exactly.
Because that's what Williams had to do last year. Just keep steadily scraping paint off. Speaking of which, scraping paint, discovered a really cool livery today back from 2019, ran at the German GP, the last German GP at the Hockenheim Ring by Mercedes, which was honoring its 200th Grand Prix. And it was a mishmash of the past and present. Their car color, the German national color for racing, used to be white. And then they transitioned to silver because they had to scrape the white paint off to make the weight limit for a race way back in the day. So the livery was white in the front, and then it was like slowly peeled away to silver, and then a little bit of black in the back. One of the best ones I've seen ever. I don't know how I didn't discover it until now. This one ranks right up there with it. Among the ones that they've done this year, Sean, because the chrome one was awesome. A throwback to the Lewis Hamilton days when they were a chrome and red car back in the day. Which one's the best this year? Is it this one?
No, I got to go with the chrome one. Got to go with chrome. That was awesome.
It was beautiful. It was great.
It was.
I think all of them have been very good.
Magnifique. Loved it.
Yeah.
You were in the middle of your podium predictions, by the way.
Yes, I was. So we got Max 1, Lando P2. And I'm a little torn on this one because I don't believe in Aston Martin anymore, even though Fernando Alonso continues to drive his tail off. I'm gonna go Carlos Sainz, Ferrari.
Yeah,
they're gonna find a way to avoid their botch strategy, which they've done too many times. I think that Lewis Hamilton is going to be in the conversation. I think that Charles Leclerc will be right there. But I love the way Sainz is driving. He's driving like he has a point to prove because Charles is like the darling of Ferrari as of now, although that could change in a couple of years. And it's like Carlos is like the redheaded stepchild of Ferrari, and he's like, you know what, I'm good too, damn it. And I'm going to prove it again.
Charles is definitely daddy's favorite, and Carlos is like, I'm here.
Pay attention to me. Love me too. So we're going Max, Lando, Carlos Sainz. That's my
All right. I'll give you mine. 1, Max Verstappen. I know Sergio Perez is the king of the streets, but Max is just driving too darn good right now. His streak will not be snapped. You mentioned Sergio Perez. You mentioned Singapore as a street circuit. How are you not going to include the king of the street circuits in your top 3?
At some point. Gotta be bold.
Sergio Perez, number 2. Red Bull going 1, 2, 4. Second straight race, third straight race, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Damn.
And finally, number 3, I agree with you. It will be a Ferrari, but I am going with Charles Leclerc because he also has something to prove. He cannot be beaten in the standings by his teammate, Carlos Sainz, 2 of the last 3 years. He's got to catch up to him. I think he does it this weekend with a podium finish.
Oh, no, actually, they did not go 1-2 at Zandvoort. That was Fernando Alonso, P2, and Pierre Gasly, P3.
All right.
You are thinking about Belgium. An old
Yes.
Spa. Okay, your bold prediction, Sean.
It is a street circuit. We are prone to hijinks. I don't think we're going to get any. I think we will have a clean race, and I think there will be no safety cars.
Here's a bold prediction, just because how often does this happen? This type of bad luck happen again and again and again? An AlphaTauri will fail to finish the race again, much like it's happened to Yuki Tsunoda 2 the last 3 races.
I don't know if that's bold because
it's bold because it's just like, could it really happen again? Yeah, that's why it's bold. Okay, it's reverse bold. I don't know what the reverse italic. It's an italic prediction. All right, time for our last segment of the day. We're gonna get out of here under 115. That's pretty good. We thought it was gonna be 45. It's 103. All right, hate it or love it, Sean. What is your hate?
If I may, I would like to wrap up my hate and my love all in the same one, if that's okay with you.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. We at the beginning of the show, Nick, you so eloquently put it that we are missing Katie this week because she is taking care of her dog Carl, best friend of the pod, because Carl is in his last days. So I love Carl. He is a good boy. I loved when he graced, his presence with us week by week, and you could hear his little tippy tap sometimes under the desk. So I love Carl. and I hate that Katie and Carl are going through this right now. He is unfortunately headed for the Rainbow Bridge, but, you know, it's a bond as a dog owner that, you know, they'll have forever, and hopefully she's only left with the good memories. So I both love Carl and hate that they're going through this right now.
You talked about me saying that eloquently. I don't think it could be said any better than how you just said it, my friend. I love that the companionship. I'm going to do it in reverse order. Actually, no, I'm not. We'll save that. Because my hate is not related to this, but I do love their companionship, and that is going to be my love that I'll dive into in a second. Because we do hate first, then love, because you always got to finish on a positive note. So, side track here. We'll go to my hate real quick. Delivery services, white glove delivery services suck. Okay? I, for the first time in my adult life, am getting a brand new couch. Yes, I'm the guy who buys a used couch. As gross as it might be, it's worked out for me at this point. I got one from Costco, and they were supposed to deliver it this morning between the hours of 7:30 and 9:30. And I woke up on time, and I had a missed call from a local number, and then I got a phone call from Costco that said they were outside ready to deliver it. They couldn't find my house from the street, so they just left. My living room is now empty. There's no couch there. There's no furniture.
Oh, my goodness.
Until Saturday. Be better, delivery services. Be better. All right, now for my love. I love, like I said, Katie and Carl's companionship. The way that Carl has been there for Katie, the dog that he's been, the photos that we get from them out in the trails, their adventures, the good boy that he's always been, the supportive pet that he's always been, and friend to Katie. I hope he enjoys his last days. I know Katie's doing everything to make sure he's comfortable and really soaking up the time they have together. And I love Katie's part of this podcast. I love the friendship that we've built through this podcast with her, and the fact that even though we're not there geographically, we can be there to support her through what is undoubtedly a difficult time. And I love that, you know, our listeners appreciate her role in this podcast and what she brings to the table and the person that she is. Like Madden, who chimed in and said, "I miss Katie. Y'all are lacking Canadians." You're right. We are lacking Canadians.
I mean, I'm from Pittsburgh. We are sometimes described as drunk Canadians with a mouthful of loose change.
Yes.
Does that do it for you?
Rusty nails and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah. So we're looking forward to when Katie comes back. Whenever that is, we'll hold down the fort. And again, best wishes. Carl, you'll make that trip over the Rainbow Bridge when you do, and it'll be one of the best in history, my friend. All right, Sean, that wraps it up. That is episode 14 of what is formerly known as the Sean Shook podcast. This time it's the Sean Shook edition of the Gridiron podcast.
The Sean Shook edition of the Gridiron podcast. I like it.
Yes.
For
Thank
Nick
you for
Shook,
hanging out with us.
For the absent Katie Caldwell, for Carl, I am Sean Barie. And as always, live life in the fast lane.